All right. Woo! I've got a Rocky Mountain high. Don't need any drugs up here. Look, I have to say, first of all, I'm pleased that I was even invited to be here because I have so many friends here. I've been coming out to Colorado since I was very young, and there are people even in this room that have been helping me out for a very long time. The governor who just spoke was my mentor mayor when he was the mayor of Denver, and one of those people who inspired me and through what he did. Jared Polis, I hate to tell him this and admit it because I think he might get a couple other people asking, but gave me one of my first campaign checks for my run for mayor of this city. So Jared, thank you for helping me get started. I've got friends here from I got two people from Newark walk up to me. They graduated from Weequahic High School, class of 49 and 56 that now are proud Coloradans. And I want to say thank you for the welcome you gave me. I had some great people at table 116 or maybe 1,116 way back there. Table 79. Do I get a shout out from 79? I'm saying all that, and I've got some friends here from Democrats for Education Reform as well. Thank you very much. I say all that to tell you that very simply, I want to go off script for a second. You all make me feel so comfortable. I have had my cell phone blowing up over the last couple hours as people have been asking me to text statements and get on the phone and do interviews. But I wanted to stay in that seat, but I do feel compelled just to mention this. Newark, New Jersey is a city that's known for many things, and we have many famous people that come from our city. From Philip Roth, the great author, to my dear friend Shaquille O'Neal, who's doing a lot right now. But one of our great artists tonight from Newark, New Jersey, who grew up in our city, who sang in our churches, died tonight. And I just want to express my deep sympathy for the death and the loss of Whitney Houston. There's an idea about death that my grandfather's death impressed upon me. My grandfather was a man that was powerful in my life, and when he left, I felt such a loss. But a friend of mine who was trying to comfort me talked to me and reminded me about astrophysicists say that the stars that we look at are hundreds of millions of light years away. Many of them have already gone out, but we still stand here on Earth looking at their light. And reminded me at that point that even though my grandfather was gone, that his light still shines for eternity. I know Whitney Houston was one of those people who shined a light so brightly for my community, for my city, and she entered the global stage. She had a glorious career and struggled with a terrible disease. And I'm just grateful, and I want her to know and her family to know that I and we will always love her. And so now let me get in trouble. You all make me feel so comfortable. I was planning on being a little more straight. I feel like I'm on the national stage. I'm out here in Colorado for what I was told by the Obama campaign is the critical state. Critical state. And I felt proud because there's states like mine that are so conveniently in a category that we know that the battleground states are the ones that are pivotal. But I was sent out here by the Obama campaign because this state is so critical. And if this state is critical in this election, the Democratic Party here are going to be the people who make the difference in the destiny of our nation. And so now I got a little comfortable here coming. I was going to be very, very conservative, but now I'm going to tell a story that is bound to get me in trouble, bound to offend somebody, because you'd never get off the stage without doing that. And I'm just going to tell you a convoluted story that has a point, and I'll wrap up after that. But the convoluted story is basically this. I have to confess to you, I landed here, got right on the phone. I'm a mayor. Went right to work. And then I got this guy, I didn't recognize the number. The call was coming at me hard, and I finally answered the number, and I said, "Who is this?" And he goes, "This is Mayor Hancock." "I know you're a mayor and all, but you have no statutory authority here in Denver. Stop ordering my police around, Cory." And I said, "Mayor, I'm sorry. It's just a reflexive habit of mine. I just want to jump right in the saddle." And then, of course, when you talk to a mayor, and you all know this, and I'm sorry to do this, but you got to complain about something. I said, "Mayor, I've been stuck in your airport so many times. I've had to sleep there twice. And I know he does this for all of you. He said, Cory, I've got a spare room in my house. If you were ever stuck there, you just come and stay with me. And so the story I want to tell you is just about that. One day I had to fly from Newark Airport to San Francisco. I was a city council person at the time, and I was in a fight with my council. And you all have a great council out here, but when I say I was in a fight with my council, I was literally in a fight with my council. One of them had me in a headlock. Two of them had me around the ankles. We go hard in Newark. We play for keeps. And my aide bursts in the door and says, Cory, you are on your flight 2222. It leaves in 20 minutes. You got all tied up here. You're not going to make the plane. I'm sorry, you're not going to make it. It's impossible. As soon as I heard that word, I snapped to attention. My aide knew he had made a mistake. He said the word impossible. And so I do reflexively what I do when I hear that word. I put my hand on my hip. And I said, you know something, my mama told me ain't no such thing as impossible. We're gonna make that plane. And my aide's eyes just rolled back in his head. He was tired of hearing about my mama, but he knew the challenge had been laid, so he went and got the car, and I ran down and I dove in the car, and we sped off to the airport. Now, I'm mayor of the city of Newark now. I therefore cannot tell you I broke any traffic laws, even though the statute of limitations is probably gone by. But we bruised a couple, bent one or two, one still in Newark Hospital, but I got to the airport. And there is this immutable law of science that in the graduate schools, in the most rarefied air in America, that they study this law. It's an equation of sorts that basically says the more in a hurry you are in, the longer the line at the airport. And so I jump out of my car and I see the long line, but I am on a call from the heavens above to prove what my mama said. So I cut everybody online. And now people are screaming at me, throwing their carry-on baggage at the back of my head, but I lean over the counter, I go, ma'am, I'm on flight 2222. You're gonna let me on that flight? And she goes, sir, you don't understand, that flight leaves in 7 minutes. They probably already closed the door. You can't get on that plane. I go, ma'am, I'm gonna get on that plane. She goes, no, you can't. It's impossible. She did not know my mama. My hand went to the hip. And I said, my mama told me ain't no such thing as impossible. And listen, y'all, this is where I might get in trouble, but I don't care who you are. Whether you're Irish, whether you're Italian, whether you're Jewish, whether you're Korean, whether you're black, whether you're Scottish, sometimes in life you gotta get a little ethnic on people. And so I leaned over the table and I said, and my grandmama said, black people have been making a way out of no way for a long time. Ma'am, I'm gonna get on this plane. Well, she rolled her eyes and she said, fine, sir, you can go ahead and try. And she gave me my boarding pass, at which point I threw my bag over my shoulder and I started sprinting through that airport, jumping over other people's bags, dodging folks, running through the airport like a man we don't really talk about anymore. I'm sorry. I went there. I get 50 yards from the gate. Here I am, a former tight end for Stanford University, played for an Elway. Jack was his name. I thought that might get me some points. Was doing the Tebow before the Tebow. And I yell at the woman who is closing the door, stop! She wheels around, she drops her pad, she sees this former football player with the spirit of a USC running back on him, and she pins herself against the wall. She goes, oh my God, what's wrong? What's wrong? And I said, ma'am, I'm on that plane. She goes, sir, I'm sorry, you're not on this plane. I go, ma'am, I'm telling you, I'm on that plane. She goes, sir, you cannot get on this plane. We've given away all the seats. It's absolutely impossible. I put my hand on my hip. And I said, my mama told me ain't no such thing as impossible. And I said, my grandmama told me black people have been making a way out of no way for a long time. And my great-grandmama We called her Big Mama. She was a religious woman. Sometimes you gotta get religious too. Even my friend Bill Maher sometimes tells me sometimes you gotta get a little religious. And I said, my Big Mama used to tell me that Philippians 4:13 says you can do all things. And before I could finish my Bible quote, she goes, sir, please, don't go all biblical on me now. I tell you what, sir, you're right. If it's okay with you, no air rage here, calm down. If it's okay with you, you're right. There is one seat left. If it's all right, if it's acceptable, it's in first class. I looked at her and I said, that'll be acceptable. And now she opens the door and I'm walking down the gateway plank and I had just been moved on up, so I'm doing my George Jefferson walk and I'm feeling very good about myself. The woman stops me and she says, where are you sitting, sir? And I go, excuse me, I'm in first class. And they sat me down. This was the first time I had ever flown first class. They make wide seats made for former tight ends from Stanford University. And then they come to me and they offer me a drink. Now, I'm not a drinker. I usually just have water on planes, but this was first class. So I said, give me some sparkling water. Make it like Perrier or something. And now the plane is moving back. And we're going down the runway. And the captain gets on the speaker and says, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome you all to flight 7432 going to Orlando, Florida. I was first class, but I was headed in the wrong direction. Now that I will never be invited back to Denver again, ladies and gentlemen, we have a situation. There are many people in our nation that are beginning to be a little confused. They think that first class has to do about how rich you are, about what kind of tax breaks you're getting. But we as a nation understand something different. We know that our country is headed in the wrong direction. If we are a nation that sees our education system go from the #1 on the globe, with the most college graduates per capita than any other nation, that's now fallen to #9. And while our children are doing worse, they are rising in other rates, the cost of health care and the epidemic of obesity. We know we're a nation that's headed in the wrong direction if we consume energy for all of our needs, but get further in debt to dangerous foreign countries. We know we're a nation that's headed in the wrong direction if we are the first generation of Americans whose children will have less social mobility than us, who see poverty rates go up and literacy rates as well. We are in tough times, and we as a people have decisions to make. There's an old proverb that I love that says, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. The fundamental ideals of this nation were that we as a people came together to form a more perfect union for our mutual prosperity. My parents told me about this as a boy. My father, this Thanksgiving, when we were going around the table talking about what we were grateful for, my father started crying and tearing up and repeated to me stories I had heard before. You see, my parents tell me that my brother and I are the result of a conspiracy of love. In fact, that all of us are a result of a conspiracy of love. For my father, it was very simple. He was a poor boy. In fact, he gets upset when I say that he was a poor boy because he looks at me and says, boy, what are you talking about? I wasn't poor. I was just P-O. I couldn't afford the other two letters. Born to a single mother in the Deep South, there was a community of people that would not let him fail. Families that took him in and fed him and kept him going. And what got my dad crying this past Thanksgiving was the fact that when it was time for him to go to college, he was going to put it off and work, and they thought that he might not be able to make it. But people came together, putting dollar bills in envelopes. He tells me, I cannot remember their names, but because of them, I got to college and was able to get my degree. He said, the conspiracy didn't stop there, son, because when I was at college, there were all these people, black folks and white folks, joining hands in the early 60s, sitting in at lunch counters. I had the privilege of being the commencement speaker at Fisk University on the 50th reunion of my mother, and she would drag me from table to table and say to me, this person sat in for you. This person marched for you. This person here, they bled for you. When it was time for my parents to get their first job, both of them in Washington, D.C., here it was that conspiracy again, black people and white people through an organization called the Urban League worked with companies to hire blacks for the first time. My father becoming one of Sinclair Oil Company's first African-American employees, one of Woodrow and Lasom's first black buyers, and then my parents became two of the first black employees for a small tech firm you all have never heard of called IBM. Conspiracy continued, my parents told me. They said, son, when we went to move to New Jersey, they wouldn't show black families' homes in white neighborhoods, but it was black people and white people through an organization called the Fair Housing Council, that when we found a town that we liked, they sent a white couple to pose as us, Mr. and Mrs. Brown, but they were not brown. After we were told the house was sold, the Browns went, the house was still for sale. We went through the ruse all the way to the closing, and my father and this young lawyer showed up on the day of the closing. The real estate agent realized that he was confronted with housing discrimination, got up, grabbed the contract out of my father's hands, and punched the lawyer, sicked the dog on my father. A court case later, we moved into this small town called Harrington Park, New Jersey, as my father used to tease us, calling us the 4 raisins in a tub of vanilla ice cream. But my father would look at my brother and I growing up and say, don't you ever walk around here as if you got here on your own. Don't you ever walk around here so proud that you think you hit a triple when you were born on third base. But don't you see, all of us who have the privilege of calling ourselves Americans, we all drink deeply from wells of freedom and liberty and opportunity that we did not dig. We eat lavishly from banquet tables that were prepared for us by our ancestors. We are here because people understood that, yes, we are a country of rugged individualism and self-reliance. But when they wanted to go far out and settle the West, it wasn't individuals on horseback, it was people traveling together. When they wanted to put up barns, it wasn't people standing there saying you do it on your own. The community came together. When they wanted schools to educate their children to rise up and go further and farther than they didn't wait for somebody else to point a finger and say this is about rugged individualism. No, it was about a community of conviction. When we wanted to build roads and hospitals, we wanted to expand opportunity in this land. We did it together. And now I stand here boldly and proudly before some of the most important Democrats in America today. And I tell you now more than ever, we must remember from whence we have come. A nation born a nation born of perfect ideals, but a savagely imperfect reality, with generation after generation of ordinary Americans doing extraordinary things to make real on the promise of America. And our party, in the depths of depressions, under the punishing pain of wars, our party had a vision. We said boldly that we are not the party of me, we are the party of we. We are not. the party of callous consumption. We are the party of creation. We're not the party of division. We're the party of multiplication. We are the party of workers' rights. We are the party of women's rights. We are the party of civil rights. We are the party that took us from sweatshops to minimum wage. We're the party that took us from child labor to public education. We are the party that says this nation is stronger together than it ever will be apart. We are the nation that understood the profound gravity of King's words, written from a jail cell in 1963, where he wrote so eloquently that we are all caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a common garment of destiny, that injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. And so I'm here to tell you that it's time for us to awaken our nation to our truth again. We can't sit back and think that democracy is a spectator sport, where we just sit back in our living rooms and get caught up in a state of sedentary agitation. Oh, come on, y'all know what I'm talking about. I've been there. Sitting there with my Ben and Jerry's, my two favorite men, watching TV, getting all upset on my couch, screaming about what somebody should do about something, but not realizing that what Alice Walker has said is right. The most common way people give up their power is assuming that they don't have any in the first place. I'm not here because of Barack Obama. I'm here because of the Democratic Party of Colorado, because I know the truth as an elected official in this country that the power of the people is always greater than the people in power. And so the question is how are we going to use our power? Are we going to let the denizens of divisiveness begin to dominate our political dialogue? That is unacceptable. I cannot stand for an America where certain people are more interested in putting other folks down than lifting all of us up. I can't stand for an America where people have this sense that if they denigrate certain people because of their sexual orientation, if they debilitate certain people because they happen to be poor, if they look down on another, they are violating the fundamental principle that I was taught by my granddaddy as a boy, that you should never look down on another unless you're willing to reach your hand there and pick them up. Because we know something as Democrats. When you expand the doors of opportunity to others, when you empower others to succeed, you empower yourself. In fact, the greatest act of selfishness there can be is to reach your hand out and help another person. Because when others succeed, as we've seen in America, we all succeed. My father was a poor boy. When others helped him, they gave rise to generations that were to come. Somewhere in inner city Newark today, there's the next Steve Jobs ready to create thousands of jobs. In this hotel right now, there's a woman that we don't necessarily talk about enough. Who's probably working minimum wage to scrub toilets for residents that come here. She's what we call the working poor. Probably working longer hours and harder hours than people that are pulling in big million-dollar bonuses. She's got children at home. And she believes in the same American dream that you and I do. That's why she works 2 jobs, to put food on their table. And that's why she looks to her government, not for a handout, but to help her do what we all must understand is in our best interest to do, to help her to get access to that American dream so her kids can learn, cultivate their genius, so that they can go out in the world, plant seeds, and bear fruit for all of us. I listen to these debates and I get disgusted when I see people cheering one of our soldiers who happens to be gay, booing them, when I see them saying to people who don't have health care, let them die. I even don't like sometimes when the other politicians say things that just sound so ridiculous to me. I heard one woman, and I've heard this quote over again, how's that hopey and changey stuff going for you? Well, let me tell you what hope is and what change is. Hope is that during the depth of the worst economy of our generation, when we're losing hundreds of thousands of jobs a month, hope is believing that we can have a leader that will reverse that trend. And change is Barack Obama, who came in and implemented the American Recovery Act and reversed the terrible trend and has 23 straight months of job creation. Over 3 million jobs, over 300,000 manufacturing jobs. Hope is believing that when an auto industry is on its knees and about to be extinct, hope is believing that somehow we can take back the bedrock of American manufacturing, the signature of our country, and revive that industry. And change is Barack Obama coming in and rescuing that industry, bringing the auto industry back, saving 1.4 million jobs. Hope is believing that one of the top reasons that families declare bankruptcy is not because of bad investments, but because of health care bills. Hope is believing that we can have a nation that no one need fear illness, but understand that if it should strike their family, they won't have to go to the poorhouse. They can lean on all of us. And change is Barack Obama coming in and standing up for what is right and extending health care benefits for 35 million more Americans. Hope is that a child with a pre-existing condition won't be denied health coverage, or one that already has health coverage will not be dropped from their coverage just because they're ill. And change is Barack Obama, who ended that scourge from our country and made sure that insurance companies do the right thing. Hope is that our politicians will stop talking about being addicted to oil, and change is Barack Obama nearly doubling fuel standards for cars and making sure that our country is on a pathway to energy independence. Hope is that when a woman goes to work in America and does the same job as a man, hope is that she will get the same pay. And change is Barack Obama coming in and saying we are going to enforce and implement the Lilly Ledbetter Act and ensure that every single woman has a right to stand up for what they have earned. Hope is that when we have men and women off to war from places like Denver and Newark, standing in places that our bellicose politicians who may go to war on false pretenses. Hope is believing that there can be a leader that can bring our troops home with honor and responsibility. And change is the commander-in-chief of the United States of America, Barack Obama, who ended that war and brought our troops home. Hope is that more of our young people will not be squeezed out of higher education opportunities. That if they have true greatness in their spirit and a desire to go to college, that this government, like it did in the past with the GI Bill and other pathways of hope, that the hope is that this country will stand up and make it so, and therefore changes. Barack Obama, who doubled Pell Grants for our people, who raised education standards in 40 states, and who made college more affordable. Hope is that when terror strikes America, that those terrorist organizations cannot strike our people down and then hide in the hills. That we are a nation that will never forget and finds those people and brings them to justice. And change is Barack Obama, who went out and got Al-Qaeda, killed their leader, and dismantled their organization. Hope is. And when someone wants to join our military, that our nation will judge them by the content of their character, by their courage and convictions, by their talent and determination, by their strength of will, body, and mind, not judge them by who they choose to love. And change is Barack Obama, who ended Don't Ask, Don't Tell, and gave dignity back to our armed forces. Say it with me, hope is. Barack Obama, hope is. Barack Obama, hope is. And change is us. We are the change that we've been looking for. We are the leaders that can make it possible. We are the people that can rescue those who are still sinking in the quicksand of despair and bring them to the high, rocky mountains of hope. We are the change that can take the people who've begun to surrender to cynicism, who are being seduced by the fear-mongers. We are the one that can shine the bright light of truth, can make sure that those who seem to want to obscure the record of our president see and face the facts. We are the change. There's a great reality in America that we know it so true. Change does not roll in on the wheels of inevitability. It must be carried in on the backs of courageous people who never lose sight of the dream of this nation. We are the children of daring dreamers. We are the children of heroes of hope, of leviathans of love, of giants of justice. We are the nation that came through battles and bloodshed, through pain and agony. We are the nation that stormed beaches in Normandy to end fascism's reign, that looked up in the sky and didn't see a dream but saw a destiny. We are the nation that taught the world a deeper, more textured meaning to freedom. that showed the globe what innovation, manufacturing, business, industry is all about. We are those people. And now it falls upon us not to let the light of the dream dim. It falls upon us to still elevate the words of our founding and make real those 5 simple words that our children say when they pledge allegiance to this flag, that we can be a nation of liberty and justice for all. It is now our turn. In the great words of that poet Langston Hughes, who said, "Oh, let America be America again. The land that never has been yet, but yet must be the land where everyone is free. The poor man, the Indian, the Negro, me, who made America? Whose sweat and blood, whose faith and pain, whose hand at the foundry, whose plow in the rain must make our mighty dream live again. Oh yes, I say it plain. America never was America to me, but I swear this oath, America will be." In this election, we must join hands one to another, Democrat to Democrat, and swear the oath that the dream will not die, not on our watch. We will elevate it to new heights. We will tell our truth. We will remake our nation. We will claim our destiny. And for those doubters out there, for those nattering nabobs of negativity, for those people who dare to underestimate the possibilities of the United States of America and think that we are getting a little high upon this hill, let me tell you right now, for all those people who say we will not return Barack Obama to the White House, for all of those people who doubt what this group of Democrats can do, to all those people who say that our quest is but a dream and our efforts are but impossible, I say to you, my mama told me ain't no such thing as impossible. Thank you.